So you're looking to buy your first property, well, congratulations. However, you're probably overwhelmed. How do you actually choose the right property? Where do you buy? Do I have enough money? So many concerns. So that's why I made this video, so I can share with you what the steps are, what to look out for before you buy your first property. So make sure you stay tuned towards the end, because that's probably one of the most important piece of the investment journey prior to you buying your first property. So make sure you watch towards the end. Let's go for it. So the first tip is make sure you have your finance ready. So what I mean by finance is two components. Number one, you've got your deposits, okay? You got the deposit to pay for your first property. And the second component is make sure you have your loan ready. Unless you're buying with cash, which is unlikely you are, make sure you have your serviceability or your borrowing power assessed by a bank. Now, when I first got my mortgage, I wish I went to a professional mortgage broker first, and it's because they have access to probably almost 100 lenders, rather you have access to only one or two bank managers which you go to individually. So not only you save you time to access a broker because they do all the hard work for you, but they're also free to actually use as well. So they don't charge you money, they get paid by the bank. So make sure you use a broker, because that's what I've done, and they were able to structure my portfolio the best they can and also give me the best deal in terms of interest rates, but more importantly is assess a finance strategy in terms of what's best for you to build your property portfolio beyond your first one. So do yourself a favor and make sure you use a mortgage broker just like I have, which has made my life much easier when choosing my first property. Now, after you've assessed your borrowing capacity and your purchase price based on what the bank can lend you, the next step is, which is probably one of the most important steps, is what is your strategy? Now, I want you to imagine you driving a car. If you have no destination in the end, what happens? You end up driving in circles forever, and that's what most property investors fail to do, and that's why most people don't create financial freedom for property. It's because they have no idea what the end goal is. Very likely you're investing in property to make money, true or true, which means it's very important to have what's the end goal. So I'll give you some examples. Like when I decided to formulate my own strategy, I asked myself, what's the passive income goal I need to live my desired lifestyle? You know, what's my ideal lifestyle? What does it dictate? Am I living in the harbour next to Sydney Harbour Bridge, or am I in the middle of nowhere in Western Australia, right? So what's the lifestyle that I desire? What's the car that I want to drive? What's all that, missing pieces? How often do I want to travel? It's very important to really be very clear in terms of your end goal, which will dictate your strategy. Now, if you don't have any idea how to do that, what I've done is, because when I first started, I have no idea what I was doing, I actually got a property strategist to actually plan out my strategy. So once I was able to get the system and know what to do, then I kind of refine it based on my needs and my values. So very important to make sure to put down it's like a business plan for your property portfolio before you start investing, because once you have that down packed, you have more clarity as to your end goal. You know which roads to drive to the airport. You know, you take left, take the M5, and you get there much quicker than someone who goes to, for example, Melbourne first and then goes to Sydney Airport, where you should have gone straight to Sydney Airport from your home in Sydney, for example, right? So make sure you have that property strategy in first before you go out and buy your first property. Now, the next step, after you have your strategy in place, you got the money ready, it's about finding the right property. Now, it's so important to find the right property because your first one is the most crucial one. Imagine buying the wrong property. After 5-10 years, you held onto it, you're negatively geared, and it hasn't gone up much in value. You couldn't extract the equity to buy a second one. Because remember, the reason why you're buying property in the first place is probably because of passive income, building wealth, creating financial freedom, or all of the above, right? So it's very important to get your first one right. So what's the best way to choose the right property for you? Again, it's dictated by your finance strategy by your broker. It's dictated by the property investing strategy defined by yourself or your property professional that you may have hired, and that is what will dictate the next property you buy. So you go buy for capital growth, yield. There's no right answer. It's all about dictated by your long-term goals. So make sure you have those plans in place. Now, just to help you understand what to buy at the moment is based on the concept of mean reversion, and I spoke about it in that video, which I'll pop up in the card above. That is one of the most important thing when choosing a particular property market to invest in. Remember, when you're buying property, you're not buying the whole of Australia. You're buying an address in a suburb, in a particular city, and a particular state. Alright, so very, very important. And what I've discussed in that video, which I mentioned before, Sydney and Melbourne, probably not the best time to buy, and also Brisbane Metro, like near the city, the houses has gone up so much that it's very unlikely they'll generate, outperform the market and in terms of capital gains over the next 10 years. So very important to choose markets such as, for example, Perth. For example, some regional Queensland areas, some regional New South Wales, but not in the actual capital cities because they're so overpriced right now and they're not going to do too well in the next 10 years, for example. So very important to have that perspective. So make sure you watch that video right now so you can understand the last step for the property journey. And make sure you check out this next video to determine which market and what kind of concepts to really consider before you purchase your first property. So don't buy a dud, you buy a star instead. Thank you for watching.